Undoubtedly, there are a number of various features that make up a culture. However, for Black America, there's nothing more dominant than its music. Black Americans have always called on their ability to find hope, solace, and even sorrow through song. Spirituals was the first songs created by Africans working in the fields in the South under the most horrendous circumstances any people have endured. But they found hope in singing their way through an oppressive life. The song, Go Down Moses, Way Down in Egypt Land, Tell O Pharaoh, Let My People Go, allowed them to compare their plight to that of the Jews with the hope for an identical outcome, which would have been freedom. There are many other spirituals that helped them to get through the days, months, and years with their faith being in a better life beyond this one. There have been various genres of music created by the genius of black artists over the years that reflect on the condition of blacks in this country. The great blues artist B.B. King, in his recording, Why I Sing the Blues, tells a story from the slave ships to the inner city struggles of black Americans. The jazz artists of the Harlem Renaissance created a new music to reflect the freedom that blacks enjoyed with the great migration from the South into the cities such as New York, Philadelphia, Chicago, and Detroit. With the movement from the South, a new genre of Christian music appeared in the 1930s. Tommy Dorsey, who began his musical career as a bluesman, developed gospel blues. Under his tutelage, he trained such notable gospel singers as James Cleveland and Mahalia Jackson. Author and record producer of gospel music, Dr. Anthony Halibutti, summarized Dorsey's influence by writing that he combined the good news of gospel with the bad news of blues. The influence of music in the black American struggle for equality in this country is deeply embedded in the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 1960s. In fact, Mahalia Jackson's voice helped guide the movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. counted on her to bring comfort through gospel to the men and women involved in the 1956 boycott of the buses in Montgomery, Alabama. Ms. Jackson also sang at the prayer pilgrimage for freedom in Washington, D.C. in 1957. It was at the rally that Dr. King first exclaimed to the President and the Congress, "Give us the ballot." She was responsible for Dr. King's most famous I Have a Dream ending of his speech at the 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom. Just as King was about to wrap up his speech, Ms. Jackson yelled, "Tell him about the dream, Martin." Dr. King later told Ms. Jackson, "When I got up to speak, I was already happy. I couldn't help but preaching. Millions of people all over the country have said it was my greatest hour. It was you, more than any single person, who helped make it so." It was Ms. Jackson's version of "We Shall Overcome One Day" that became the rallying cry for the movement. Then President Lyndon Johnson also recited it when he addressed the United States Congress, calling on them to pass the 1964 Civil Rights Bill. When Mahalia Jackson died in 1972, critic Scott King said of her, "The cause of justice, freedom, and brotherhood have lost a real champion whose dedication and commitment knew no midnight." There have been other musicians who lent their talents to the movement. James Brown brought pride to the movement when he sang, "Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud." Those words are still echoing today, over 50 years later. Marvin Gaye's hit album, What's Going On, was dedicated to the movement at the chagrin of Berry Gordy, who felt his artists should shy away from controversial topics in their songs. He was inspired to reject Gordy's opposition by his brother, who had just returned from Vietnam, and shared with Gaye the contradiction between blacks fighting in the war and the struggles at home. He also sang Abraham, Martin, and John as a tribute to Abraham Lincoln, Dr. King, and President John Kennedy. Nita Simone was an additional artist who dedicated much of her works to the battle taking place in the streets across the South. In 1964, she sang at the Village Voice in New York City, Mississippi, "Goddamn," as a scathing indictment of the vicious battles taking place throughout the South, and especially the bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church in Birmingham, Alabama on September 15, 1964. Her song was selected by the Library of Congress for preservation in the National Recording Registry for being culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. Her most moving civil rights song, "The King of Love Is Dead," was written after Dr. King's assassination. One of the greatest contributions that the black race has made to this country has been its music. That particular contribution continues as new genres are being introduced on a regular basis from new and aspiring artists. However, what has been accomplished in the past can never be forgotten, and that is why it is appropriate for the month of June to be Black Music Month.
Veterans, when you're struggling, soon becomes later, becomes someday, becomes when. Don't wait. Reach out.
Find resources at va.gov/reach.
Hello, this is Cornell with Frost Bank.
Hi there, this is Terry with Frost.
Good evening, this is Franklin.
This is Robert with Frost.
Hello, this is Rosemary with Frost Bank.
Nothing to do this week? Don't miss another event. Go to blacksinsanantonio.com for our event calendar. The home of the largest business directory in San Antonio with an African American focus. Sign up today for our weekly e-blast and text message alerts. Help us make this a better community. Connect, empower, grow.
Chris Dawkins is here with me today, and you just saw my little monologue on the importance of music to Black America. And Chris has a long history of being involved in the music business. So, Chris, you're frowning at me.
Yeah, I don't tell anybody that.
Oh, okay. That's his secret. Okay. Okay. With that said, Chris, what do you think about what I just shared with my viewers about the importance of Black music to our culture in our history?
I know you had a time limit, but to be honest, there's not enough that can be said about Black music and what it's meant to Black people and how it's been our soundtrack to our life, from coming from Africa to the boats to slavery to civil rights to Jim Crow. Everything that we have done, music has been the underlying thing that we have used. Sometimes we've used it as messaging. A lot of time we've used it as messaging. Mm-hmm. But the thing that I hate about it, and we'll get more into this later, is that we have never really been able to control what is done commercially with our music, and it's always, like everything else, somebody else getting paid versus us.
And that's true of film, even novels, books, everything. Someone else controls the money, so they control the message.
That's correct.
Do you think that Berry Gordy kind of broke that when he created Motown?
Not really. I think that Berry Gordy, it got broken because if you remember, Motown was doing mostly songs about love. Mm-hmm. Then when Stevie Wonder came, and Stevie Wonder's, I think it was first or second, whatever contract it was, and he began to break away and said, I want to do a different type of music. Berry Gordy did not want him to do that type of music. Berry Gordy did not want Marvin Gaye to do What's Going On.
Absolutely,
all of those type of things. He wanted them to stick with the love and the type of thing. But these guys, and what we still get strapped with today, is that sometimes all we know what to talk about is about love and sex and different things and party and stuff like that, which is not the case, but that's a lot of times how we're portrayed.
So it sounds to me like you're saying Berry Gordy did the same thing that the other money-controlled people have done with our music.
Yes, he did. I agree. Yeah, that's true.
Do you want to put a value judgment on it? Was it good or bad?
For the time being, when he was doing it, I think everything has a time and a space and a season for what they're doing. And I believe for what he was doing and when he was doing it, he gets no, I have no problem with what he did. But everything has to evolve. And so Stevie Wonder and the different people that were a part of that, the Marvin Gaye, the Lionel Richie's, the different things like that, they began to evolve. And by evolving, they helped to make Berry Gordy evolve as well.
and do some of the other.
And do some of the other types of music. Matter of fact, especially with Stevie Wonder, was, you know, his biggest music was when he was not talking about love in the type of way that it normally was talked about, and when he was forced to do the things that he was forced to do when he was under his first Motown contract.
Mm-hmm. You know, Mr. King talked about the importance of music to the whole civil rights movement, and he mentioned some folks. He mentioned, well, you know who they are. I'm having a mind block here, but you can talk about Curtis Mayfield, Marvin Gaye. You can talk about "Say It Loud, I'm Black and I'm Proud" by James Brown, and then of course from the gospel side, Mahalia Jackson was very important to Dr. King. Do you feel like commenting on that?
Well, before I comment on that, the one name that I want to put out there that a lot of folks forget to mention, which I think is very important because his life was so short, but that was Sam Cooke. I think what Sam Cooke did in music and the things that he was writing about and the message that he was trying to give while he was alive was very important, but because his life was so short-lived, people don't talk about Sam Cooke as much. So I just wanted to say that before anything, because everybody talks about, you know, Stevie and James Brown and Mahalia and whatever, but I think Sam Cooke was right there with the rest of them.
And his life was taken.
Yes.
I think he was killed about 1964.
Okay, yeah.
What do you? What's the value of rap music?
Well, that depends, I guess, on who you're asking what the value of rap music is. Rap music is very valuable, let me say that. But the value depends on who you're talking to. If you're talking to my son and the people of my son's age, they would say it's the music of their ear. Because I'm a little bit older, you know, I take exception with that. I say that there are things that are going on now in America that need to be talked about, and if it was back in our time, there would be a lot of people talking about that, and we would be hearing about it. Now we don't hear about those things as much. I don't want to hear about the and I don't know if I can say this, the bitches and the hoes.
I was going to bring that up.
Yeah, I don't know if I can say that, but that's a problem for us as a people. And I don't think as a people we can go forward until we can decide to control the message of something someplace. And we can't control the message of anybody doing anything. And if we can't control any kind of message of anything that's going on, then we control nothing, and we're always going to be the patsy for somebody else.
Yeah. If your daughter, if some guy pulls up and he hears them singing about bitches and hoes, I mean, I don't know about you. Maybe it has to do with age. I don't want to go out with a guy like that.
Well, again, you know, if you're a younger person, your daughter may want to go out with a guy like that, okay? But you may not want her going out with a guy like that, but she may choose to want to go out with a guy like that.
Okay, I hear that all the time. But wait a minute. There are some values that don't change, okay? Calling our women those names is not a value that I think is positive. I don't care if it's in 1920 or if it's in 2020, 22. To me, there's no value there. And you can't, to me, that's just how I feel about it.
Well, and I agree with you, but I think our generation has failed. You and our generation has failed because we have not been able to take what you're saying, what your values are, and pass those down to your children or to my son. We have not been able to do that. So they are somehow getting their own values as to what they have, which are not the values that you and I have. How did that become possible?
As a society.
As a society.
Right, because I believe that somewhere along the line, we as men have failed.
And I'm not going to say men. Don't put it just on men.
Let me bring up a song. Papa was a Rolling Stone.
Right.
Wherever he laid his hat was his home.
Right.
What's the value of that song for black men? I mean, why would you record that? Okay, he's here, he's with this woman, and then there's one.
Well, see, first of all, this is where I would have to take issue with you because this is where my music comes in. because freedom of speech and what you can do and what you can say, if that's what that writer felt and that writer was doing, hell, all of us had, or at least knew somebody in our neighborhood who was a Rolling Stone and Papa was moving around.
But that wasn't good because we
regardless
knew.
of whether it was good, but you should be able to say it.
I'm not talking about freedom of speech. Yeah,
Okay.
you can say it, but I got a right to criticize it.
Okay, that's
And-
good.
And that's what I'm doing.
Okay.
I'm saying songs about the negative black man, and you get it in movies, you get it in books, has hurt us as a black race.
I think there's two sides of this coin that we should look at. I think that, yes, it should be said, but I don't think it necessarily should be valued. Okay?
Well, we're agreeing.
Okay.
We're agreeing.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm not saying they can't do it.
Okay.
But can you put a value judgment on it? You may not want to. A lot of people don't want to, but I think that's a cop-out. I mean, speak up.
I tell this story, and I don't know, you can edit it out if I say something wrong, but I was working on a dock back in Ohio, loading trucks, putting stuff on there. And we had a break, and we went into the break room. And these white guys were all in a group, and they were talking. And they were saying, the nigger this and the nigger that. And I'm looking, like, I'm getting upset. So I'm getting closer and closer, and they're talking about it. Come to find out, the white guy is talking about his father, and he's calling his father the N-word.
Because it's the negative.
The point was, for me, is that you've got, when you talk about rap, you've got people who want to come down and talk and say it's an acceptable word. It really begins to confuse white folks as far as, well, if he can say it, then why can't I say it? You hear it in the songs, well, why can't I say it? And then my sons or other people want to come back and say, well, they're saying this and they're not saying that. And I'm saying BS, okay? Mm-hmm. It shouldn't be really said at all, and it should not be a part of our vocabulary anywhere with anybody at any time, period.
And that's true, because the last word a lot of our ancestors heard before they were lynched was that word.
Okay.
Yeah. So why would we want to use that word? Why would we want to endear that word to us? But and dog. I mean, dog.
Right.
Why do you want to be called a dog?
Right.
I mean, what's positive about that? And it gets into, to me, some of the rap music with what they did.
And people call and say, that's my boy.
Yeah. Well, I don't think that's as bad as dog.
Yeah, but some people say,
that's my dog.
Yeah.
Come on.
And when Snoop went to Jamaica, they wouldn't let him be a dog. He was Snoop Lion.
Yeah, Snoop Doggy Dog.
Yeah, no.
They got an ad now on TV.
Yeah, they wouldn't.
The white boy calls him Dog.
Right.
Dog. He says, and you don't have to call me Doggy. And it's in, he says, Doggy Dog.
But look, getting back
hold on. Can we pick that up after a quick break?
Sure.
Hold on to your point.
Okay.
We'll be right back with you, discussion with the writer Fred, with my buddy Chris Dawkins.
2021 is complete. Good or bad, you made it through. The year of many firsts. It will not be easily forgotten. The Black Book Yearbook will help you capsule the year that was 2021. Own your part of history. Get your yearbook today at blacksinsanantonio.com. For the latest news and community activities, visit our companion site, blackvideonews.com, celebrating over 10 years of documenting the community.
My Shiro doesn't always wear a cape, but she always has time for a hug, a smile, for going the extra mile. My Shiro stretches every dollar, puts in long hours, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. When you're ready to retire, we want you to be able to enjoy it. It's time to start saving now. A free 3-minute online chat can give you the personalized tips you need to start boosting your retirement savings today. Visit aceyourretirement.org/Shiro.
Okay, back to discussion with the writer Fred, and me and my buddy have made up. Carl Booker over there, our producer, brought out the boxing gloves, but we both said we're a little too old for that. We're working out through words. But let's get back to our discussion, Chris. You were talking about rap.
I just think that there's still two sides of it. I agree with the capitalistic side and then being able to make money. But I also believe that there is not, we as a people are not controlling what comes out, what can come out, and what is said about our people. And I think that that's something that really is void. We don't have anybody who we can say, this is taboo. If you do it, we're not going to buy your music. And that happens. But we follow like a puppy dog to anybody and everybody who does whatever they do. And we look like, not only do we look like we are, I think sometimes people who don't have a value.
I agree with you. I think the guy, Nelly, had a video in a rap where...
Now, I do like it. It's hot in here.
But it was a rap where black women turned up their butts and they took credit cards and slid down their butts. I was teaching at UTSA at the time, civil rights class. And I said to my black students, females, you should boycott this guy. You know what they told me?
What?
But we like Nelly.
Right.
It's almost like they've given in to that.
Right.
They're accepting that role.
Right.
And no one can tell me that's good. I don't see it. And then let's go back to rap. I'm not going to use a word, but everybody knows what I'm talking about. In with attitudes. Okay.
Okay.
They had a song, F the Police. F the Police. Now you got a young, impressionable brother who doesn't have the foundation behind him. He goes out and he says, F the police. What's going to happen to him? He's dead or in jail. Now, you mentioned that they made money. Well, my question to you, should they be able to make money at the expense of our race, our kids, everything? Do you feel they should make money that way?
This is very good that this conversation is coming up at this time. Mm-hmm. I can remember Jay King, who you just interviewed,
right, yeah,
was a label mate of mine on Warner Brothers. And another label mate was Ice-T.
Okay.
And Ice-T was one of those people who were talking about making very radical records about what to do about the police and the different things like this. And I can remember being in the basement at Warner Brothers, and all of us were just sitting down talking like we're talking now. Mm-hmm. And the one thing Ice-T told me, I asked him about, his lyrics and the different things that he was talking about. And Ice-T said, it's not up to me to police your children. He said, I'm trying to get from point A to point B, and this has been the only vehicle that I've been able to use to get from point A to point B. And right now, if that's what I have to do, I know you don't like this.
Heck
but
no.
But if this is what I have to do.
No, not at all.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah, I know you don't like it.
No,
but that's
a cop-out. That's nothing but a cop-out. In other words, him getting from point A to point B, he could do anything to hurt our community, and it's your fault because they're your kids.
Right.
Well, maybe he has a point. Maybe we failed. Maybe we should have stopped him from having his music
but
in
you
our house.
Remember
then he wouldn't have had the money from point A to point B.
Correct.
I don't buy any of that.
But you remember I said we don't control anything. Your whole premise is that the values that we have as a black people, or maybe I should say the lack of value that we have as a black people, allows for somebody like Ice-T to do what he's doing to be able to be successful.
So he feels no responsibility to the race. It's just to him.
Correct.
And how often have we had to face that? And
Every day.
and over again.
Yes.
With all kinds of different artists.
Because the bottom line is we don't control anything. If you were able to stop that record coming either into your house, into your community, into your neighborhood, then you have some control. But you weren't able to do that. And when I say you, I'm talking about the whole community as a whole, not you as Fred Williams.
And you're exactly right. And I don't let black men off the hook at all. We're all to blame. We're all to blame. But he should feel a greater responsibility. I think that was an absolutely cop-out statement he made to you.
It could have been.
It's like the crack dealer saying, well...
Like Jay-Z.
Yeah.
You don't like Jay-Z.
No, for that reason.
Right.
No. And
Right.
he got invited to the White House. How many families did he possibly destroy on his way? And they weren't important. They're not important, Chris. Those women that start turning tricks to get a hit of crack, they're not important, man. Is Jay-Z more important than them?
But I say, I come back to say, we have to control something. And when we don't control anything in our neighborhood, I remember reading stories, wasn't old enough to know, but when you had the Italians and they were bringing in liquor and they had illegal liquor and the different things like that, and they were bringing that into their community or whatever, and they were controlling that. I believe that every ethnic group that there is has something that they do, okay? The difference is that they normally either don't sell it to their kids or things that they just don't do. And we haven't been able to corral that where we can have some respect for our children, our women, or somebody. But in what we've done, we have no respect for anybody, even our own people.
Right, yeah. So, bringing our conversation to an end, what do you see as the future?
I really, I can't say it's totally bright, but I do see us making some headways. I see some people that are changing. I see some things that are happening. I'll just mention very briefly in passing the slapping incident with Will Smith and Chris Rock was not a good look for us. You know, I don't know how we begin to recover, but I do see many more people of color doing different things. I see commercials that are being geared towards our people. I see a number of things that are being directed at us, but that still means that we've got to find a way for us to be able to control what comes into our community, because if we don't, somebody else will continue to control that, and that's not going to be a good look for us.
That's a good ending. That's a very good ending. Thanks, Chris, for being here, a discussion with the writer Fred, talking about a very, very critically important subject as we move forward as black people in America. It's a discussion with the writer Fred, saying it as usual, telling our story our way.